pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Katie Hoffman, who is the Executive Director of Create Appalachia. While she grew up in Richmond, Virginia, she is especially thrilled to have ended up in our East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia region, right in the heart of the music, food, literature, and culture that she loves best. She earned her bachelor's degree from the College of William and Mary and her master's degree at ETSU and her PhD from the University of Tennessee. And her specialty is Appalachian Studies. For the past 13 years, she has focused on the arts and the culture of Appalachia, while serving as a consultant for nonprofits throughout our region. And now, as the Executive Director of Create Appalachia, she has worked with dozens of regional organizations, included the Crooked Road, the Birthplace of Country Music Museum, the Heritage Alliance of Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, among many, many others. She is a scholar and a performer of traditional Appalachian ballads, and she is a singer-songwriter. We might get an example of that a little bit later. Her CD, Beautiful Day, features the East Tennessee State University Bluegrass Pride Band. And she is also a traditional music producer for a PBS series entitled Appalachia, A History of Mountains and People. She co-chaired the Appalachian section of the 2003 Smithsonian Folklife Festival on the Mall in Washington, D.C. And she co-curated a very fine art exhibit entitled Changing Appalachia from Custom to Cutting Edge. This exhibit included traditional work displayed along with pieces of the vanguard of Appalachia's fine artists. Her work includes several oral history projects as well, including Windows of the Past, a history of the Vardy community, Hidden Heroines of Northeast Tennessee, the first stories, and an oral history that was of the McLean family band in Eastern Kentucky. And since 2008, she's worked on local food initiatives across our region, serving such organizations as the Appalachian Regional Commission and the Collaborative for the 21st Century. Katie and her husband, Brett Hillard, are the founders and owners of a growing business venture that's called Vintage Kitchen Cast Iron and Collectibles. They specialize in buying, reclaiming, selling, and restoring vintage cast iron and placing it in the hands of appreciative cooks and collectors. Vintage Kitchen has been featured at food conferences throughout our entire region. As Executive Director of Create Appalachia, she has the opportunity to show others what her scholarship and experience has taught her about our beloved Appalachia. And as she describes it, it is a place where innovation and inventiveness run deep. And it's also there it has a depth and breadth of artistry, just waiting to be nurtured, grown, and showcased. Create Appalachia is a 501(c) organization, a nonprofit organization, and is headquartered right here in Kingsport and serves creatives and creative entrepreneurs across 33 counties in East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, and Western North Carolina. The organization supports those who work, and that work is combined with creativity and technology to do business, and it brings attention to the critical role of innovation and artistry in economic and workforce development. Today, Dr. Hoffman will share some important insights into what Creative Appalachia is all about and how its facilities, equipment, physical resources, programming, and events guide this growing and absolutely amazing nonprofit organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her.
Thank you so much. I'm always excited to have an invitation to talk about Create Appalachia after all the experiences that I had. And the one that got left out was when I was telling Kelly Price about, I started out as a banker, which was a fabulous experience too, but I always wanted to teach. And I always thought, well, I'm going to find just the right thing to do before I retire and Create Appalachia. I'm not looking to retire soon, mind you, but Create Appalachia has allowed me to take all of these different skills that I have and put them to the service of a nonprofit. We're a little organization with big dreams and a big territory. We are building as we go along. We are so pleased to be anchored here in Kingsport as part of the Innovation Village. And one of our big pushes for this year, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, is to be able to have this firm foundation that we've finally gotten built, and then take some of our programming, our youth programming, our adult entrepreneur programming, and even some senior programming that we're developing, and offer it offsite in underserved communities, in rural communities. We want to take it on the road. So that's one of our big goals for this year. So keep in mind as I talk, I'm not telling you everything. I'm telling you what I think lines up with what I've learned about the Kiwanis organization. One of the things that we share is a focus on community and on youth. We have created some youth programs. So part of my presentation today is going to really focus on showing you some of the things that we've been able to work with other nonprofits to do for youth in the region. I love your focus on literacy. My PhD is actually in English with a specialty in Appalachian studies. And like us, you believe in introducing young people to opportunities early and helping them learn about their own potential and the potential careers they might choose and the things they might think about. So how many of you before today have heard about Create Appalachia? Okay. I'm curious to know if somebody asked you, what does Create Appalachia do? Can anybody want to volunteer and answer for me? Anybody have an answer? Yes.
So I know one of the things that you told us that you do, when you were here before, is help starting creators, artists or whatever, have access to tools that would be too expensive for them to have on their own at the beginning.
Exactly. That's one of the things we do. Anybody else know anything else we do? Katie?
I know that Creative Labs provides professional development opportunities for creatives, and also has a great gallery that provides opportunities for artists to showcase their work here.
And Katie knows about this great gallery because she has been our curator for the past several years. And we are very fortunate to have her doing that. She is a delight to work with. If I don't have to tell you that, you already know that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do with adult creatives, but I will focus more on youth programs. And I hope I've got plenty of cards with me. I've got brochures. And I hope that if something occurs to you about ways that we might collaborate, either individually with you or with the Kiwanis Club, that you will ask me later about that. When I say creative, oops, got ahead of myself. I do that a lot. When I say the word creative entrepreneur, what comes to mind? Graphic designers, artists, animators,
Digital creators.
Authors, yes. Photographers, chefs, florists, anybody who combines creativity and technology in any way. They might not do the technology, but they might need the services of creatives, other creatives, to help promote what they do. So we're about the business of art. We're not going to offer classes in painting or woodworking or anything like that. Their Inventor Center already does that. So many wonderful organizations already provide arts classes. What we're trying to do is support people who are taking their creativity and turning it into a business and helping them get that off the road, on the road. So we just voted on a new mission statement. And this is it: to benefit our region by uniting creativity, technology, and entrepreneurship. And we do that, as Mary Lee mentioned before, through our facilities, through our events, through our programming, and also through specialized equipment that we have that makes it affordable for people to come in and use our space. Our vision is a region where the creative sector of the economy is visible, empowered, accessible, and valued, because opportunities exist for them to learn, thrive, and compete successfully. One of the things I noticed way back when I was working for the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and taking Appalachians up to the mall to showcase them was that we don't always value at home what we have in terms of creatives. And one of my life's missions has been for people to understand Appalachia better and for Appalachia to understand its own creatives better and the value that they bring both economically and to quality of life. This is our footprint. We do not yet serve all 33 counties. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our history, and you'll see why. We started in 2014. Our founder, Cher Cornett, was a professor. She recently retired from the digital media department at ETSU. She got tired of the brain drain. She got tired of our talented youngsters leaving to go someplace else because they thought there weren't opportunities for them here. And if you know anything about ETSU's digital media program, it is 7th in the nation. And these are extremely talented and knowledgeable and skilled students. I hire them to teach classes for me and to do professional projects for me. I was also frustrated by brain drain, and somebody connected Cher and me for that reason. It's been a dynamic duo for 10 years now. We started offering some public programs back in 2016. In 2017 and 18, we held our first strategic planning meeting. We expanded our board, and we got a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission. They were very interested in our idea of providing professional development for artists, not just more opportunities to learn their actual art skills. 2019 to 2021, it was a ride, wasn't it? Y'all remember? So in late 2019, we were awarded over $700,000 by the Appalachian Regional Commission, and we were going to open up these centers for art and technology. And then, 2020, and the pandemic. So it's kind of hard to open up a co-working space and office spaces during a pandemic. The ARC was fabulous. They were flexible. They worked with us on all the delays. We got extensions on a lot of things. We tried again in 21 to open up, and COVID reared its ugly head again, and we had to slow down a bit. We lost some partners because they went out of business or because they lost funding. But we are scrappy people. We just keep on going. We moved our Arts at Work program online, had a lot of programs with people from England and all over the United States because they were interested in what we were doing. Google is great, you know. In 2022, things began to look better. We were so excited to be invited to be part of Kingsport's Innovation Village. Kingsport has allowed us at an incredibly reasonable price to be in the old City Hall building. And our promise to them was that we were going to fill it up with small businesses and creatives and really try to make things lively in a space that had been vacated by the city. If you've ever been to our space, you will kind of not recognize it if you haven't been there since the city was there. It's very vibrant, very colorful. You'll see in a minute. We set up our gallery in the foyer, and we got started with exhibits that's open every day during business hours. In late 2022, we opened our center in Johnson City. We had a grand opening. We had some of the same facilities there that we have here. We started working with the YMCA to put together some programs for underserved youth, and they wanted animation classes. And that was so exciting for us. It was so fun to start planning those classes. And then in 2023, we figured out that one of the purposes we could serve was as a bridge between maybe some groups in the area that were a little at odds with each other. I noticed in Johnson City, for example, that there was a little tempest in a teapot going on. There were a bunch of muralists over there who were very upset that Johnson City had given jobs to people from outside the area using local money. And the public art people were upset because they wanted to hire local people, more local people, but the local people had not followed the instructions. I felt like I was back in college again with students and assignments, right? Like, you didn't read the assignment. I take off for that, right? So it was a really great exchange. And because we didn't have a dog in the race, we were able to bring those people together. One of the people who was in attendance there was John Rose, who was the economic development director here at the time. And I don't think anybody had a better time on that panel than John. In 2024, our offices and co-working space began to fill up because I was able to get out and do more presentations like this one. We continued offering youth programs, and we had already worked with the YMCA, but we added the Boys and Girls Clubs and the Girl Scouts and the Niswonger Foundation's Career Connect program. We held our first digital media summer camp. And by the way, if any of you know any students who are interested, we just opened registration for our 2025 one. It's in July. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. The Johnson City building sold. I went to the board to let them know, and they were all a little upset about that. And I said, no, this is great. This is a gift because we can consolidate in Kingsport, and we've been thinking about expanding. We can consolidate in Kingsport where we've got a solid foundation, and we can work from there. And it has been a gift. Our offices are now full. I have the last one spoken for, and the person will be moving in on Monday. That's 14 offices, 5 cubicles, and a co-working space. And we've got 3 cubicles and all of the offices filled now. We even started having to move things around to put offices where we didn't have offices before because there was demand. We have a number of interesting organizations in the space, and I've already talked to you about our goals here. Delivery of offsite programming, development of teacher-in services for CTE and digital arts teachers, and the development and delivery of a senior-focused series of classes on Microsoft products and also cybersecurity. So these are things that we're working on and that are in the plan now. What we really do is that we provide affordable access for all generations of people who are interested in making in a digital space. And I talk to the Inventor Center folks a lot about how they're the tangible makerspace and we're the digital makerspace. And watching the students, I'm disappointed that the video won't play, but you can get on our YouTube channel and see this. When the YMCA students came in for their animation classes, they took 2 weeks. The first week was taught by a grad student named Miguel Caffey, and he's going to be teaching for us again this summer. And they worked individually, and they learned to create characters, and they learned to do what's called squash and stretch. You've seen that in cartoons, right? Is that me? Am I echoing? And they each worked on characters individually. When they came back for the second week, they were given a group project. And these are middle schoolers. They were given a group project, and the instructor for that one had created 2 different characters, Bully the Frog and Regina the Rat, who was Bully's secretary. And the students took these 2 characters, and they had to come up with a story and a storyboard, and they had to work as a team to decide who was going to animate which piece of the story. And they came up with this 48-second short. It's on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it. Those kids were so excited. Like, I used to teach at Tusculum, and I used to teach public speaking, and it was often hard to get students to stand up and talk about their work. They were intimidated. These kids were so fired up, we couldn't get them to sit down. The short was 48 seconds, and the kids were up there saying, and I did this, and I did that, and I worked with him to make this happen. And they were so excited. So on the last day, we had a screening. I got popcorn. Their parents came. We showed this 48-second short that's adorable. And then I interviewed a couple of them to ask them, what did you like about the class? And I was expecting them to talk about, the animation part, the character creation part. And one of those kids said, I never thought I was creative before. And then another kid and his grandmother told me, the grandmother said, I've never heard him talk about going to college until he came and took this class. And he went home and he got on Google and he looked where they had animation programs. I think that video is also on our YouTube channel. Another one said, one of the best things I learned was teamwork, because you don't always get to do that in regular school. So I was like, okay, workforce development in middle school. They're learning how to do stuff they're going to need to do later. So that was really, really fun. And then I had invited Gabby Billiot, who was then working for the Niswonger Foundation, to come to that screening, which she did. She got so excited about it. We ended up working with the Niswonger Foundation to put together a different kind of digital class for the Career Connect students. And the rest of this was just pictures of that, of these different endeavors. What they wanted was a class for high school students who were mostly CTE students, mostly sophomores and juniors and a few seniors, who were going to go into a trade probably after high school, and who were going to need to know how to promote themselves. And so we sat down with them and we said, well, what would you like these students to emerge with? And they said, well, it would be great if they understood about logos. It would be great if they understood about resumes. It would be great if they understood about business cards. So I called my lovely friend, Kelly Porter, who is a professor of art and design at ETSU, and who has been a national brand manager for like Ryobi Tools, and she's done all kinds of work for regional organizations as well. And she's such an incredibly talented teacher, and she gets so enthusiastic. I wouldn't know about that, but I like people who get enthusiastic when they teach. And she put together this great program. So these students came, they spent 2 days in our space, and they each designed a personal logo. But instead of just designing a logo, she talked with them about color, and she talked with them about fonts, and she talked with them about how you make your personality come through in a visual way when you make a logo. So they left and they took a walk around downtown Kingsport and looked at all the branding and talked about like the branding on this. So what does this say to you and what does that say to you? It was such a great experience. We're going to be doing that again with the Career Connect program this summer. So we and our digital summer camp, those are programs that those nonprofits pay us to develop. Part of what we try to do is we sit down with people and we say, what do you need? We don't guess. We customize our classes. And we've taken that branding class and made several different versions of it. For instance, I mentioned earlier on that we're developing a teacher in service. We're taking that branding class to a teacher in service for CTE teachers to give them that graphic design background and the theory behind it that Kelly gave the students, because the teachers who were there with the students said, we never talk about this part in class. We talk about how to make something change color in the background, but we never talk about the theory behind the visual. So you can probably tell I'm pretty excited about what I do. I'm pretty excited about the results of what we do. We invented our little summer digital media camp last year. We offered an animation class, and for the first time we offered a game design class, which also involves a little coding. Went really well. This year we're offering them again. That's our own thing. We would love to have some sponsors for that, because honestly, we're not making money on those at all. And we're not in it for a profit, but we deal with technology, and any of you who deal with technology and software and all of those things, you know you have to invest a lot of money in keeping those things up to date, and we want to be state of the art. So one of the things that we do is we charge tuition for these. It's $175 for a 1-week class, 5 days of in-person instruction by a very talented, vetted teacher. And I pay my creatives well, because I'm walking the walk. And because when I started out in the ETSU Bluegrass Band, Jack Tottle, who started the program, said to me, listen, Katie, you're a generous person and you'll go out and sing for free because you're married to a doctor. I was then, I'm not now. And because you can afford to, he said, but you need to remember when you do that you are screwing the people who are trying to do it for a living, because you're good and people will call you. And what you need to do is work with your community. And I took that to heart. And I tell that to all my creatives. Ask for what you're worth. And when people demur and say, oh, that's a lot to pay for graphic design, or that's a lot to pay for a logo, we equip them to explain why it's not a lot. So that's what we're trying to do. Some of what we're trying to do. Lots more I could tell you about. But what I'll do now is take your questions if you have questions. And also, I want to be sure and invite you. I really love to show people around. I really love for people to see what we do. I don't mind having a group. The Northeast Tennessee, the Northeast State elite student staff came through this morning. We walked around. I told them all about everything. I never get tired of it. I love to show them the gallery. So come as a group, come as a single human being. I will show you around, and we'll talk about what Create Appalachia could do for you. Happy to see you anytime. And I've got plenty of cards. So, and Katie knows how to get hold of me, and John knows how to get hold of me. I'm not hard to find. So please feel free to come and see us and ask questions in the space if you want to. But I do want to ask if anybody has